Good morning. Welcome to the Marketing Rocketfuel show slash podcast. We're going to have to figure something out here, Drew, so that I don't keep dragging that out. I am Michael. This is Drew. Drew, good morning. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, Michael. Hey, I am so excited this week because our podcast, we've got a small audience happening already, but we're showing up in more and more places. I'm really excited this week because not only are we on YouTube now, but we're also on Spotify podcast, we're on Anchor podcast, Apple podcast, and Google podcast. So you can find us any place you listen to your favorite podcast. You can listen to Marketing Rocket Fuel.
So not only are we going to irritate people with their eyes, we're going to irritate their ears as well.
Yes,
so that's good. We're gonna.
I like to think of it as tickling the ears.
Oh, okay.
Except for we're not telling people what they want to hear. We're telling people what nobody else will tell you about these hidden costs.
That's right. Now that is a professional segue, folks, because now we're going to go into why, who, and what. And this is really for folks that are catching this for the first time. Drew, why are we doing this? Who are we doing this for? And what are we trying to accomplish with this time together?
All right. So, hey, I'm just going to go real quick on this. And if you want more detail, you can go check out the other episodes. I'd highly recommend that. But this podcast is for people who are starting a business and have never marketed before, or maybe just getting into marketing. People who own an established business and you used to do all of the marketing on it yourself, but now it's time to hand that to somebody else. And maybe the marketing director who works for that company, who is a single person that needs to consider outsourcing or look at different options, and you're not necessarily sure how much those things are going to cost. That's really who the Marketing Rocket Fuel podcast is for. The reason that we're doing this is because a lot of our own clients, Michael and I combined, have over 40 years of experience in the marketing industry. And a lot of our clients will come to us and they'll be really surprised at how much things cost, even if they do it themselves, versus how much they can get on a return. Or they'll be surprised that at how much work goes into something. And so we really want to help you enter your marketing with a lot more knowledge, armed with that knowledge, so that you know whether or not something's a good deal, and you know whether or not you should outsource something, do it in-house, or you should look for other options.
Fantastic. And so just to drill down a little bit further, that could take us in all kinds of directions, but the real overarching theme of season 1 is hidden costs. And if you look back at previous episodes, we talked about just our opening episode was hidden costs of digital marketing. We drilled down into hidden costs of possibly a Shopify site, e-commerce, and that was deep enough to where we had to separate that into 2 episodes. Hopefully we can keep this into one quick episode, but today we are talking about the hidden costs of do-it-yourself website builders. And so, and look, we are light years away from building websites in Dreamweaver or hard coding websites and static pages back in the day. But what are some of these DIY website builders that we're going to talk about today, Drew?
It's so interesting because I've been doing this since 1996. I started building websites back in the mid 90s. Everybody was on AOL or MSN network was just kind of starting to rise up, and we were all on dial-up internet with the weird sounds. And some of the first websites I built were on DIY website builders, where you went on places like Homestead or GeoCities or something like. And if you're old like me, there's my vintage 1972 hat right there. So you might remember some of those things. Well, we've come a long way
Yeah.
since that time. And even in the past few years, website builders have improved dramatically. But the question still remains, are these a good deal? And should you be using them, or who should be using them? Now, let's back up and say, okay, what is a DIY website builder? Well, this is something where you, as the business owner, or you, as an employee in your business, can go on and make your own website without having to know how to code, without having to go to school for 4 years and try to figure all these things out, or be in the industry for 25 years. So they help you get a website up quickly, and usually at a fairly low cost. And then you can kind of get things online so that you can start promoting your business. Okay, so that all sounds great. Oh, wow, I can get a website really quick. I can get a website super cheap, and I can get this professional looking thing. Well, yes and no. So today we're going to talk about, when should you use these things? When should you use these DIY website builders? And when should you graduate from that and start doing something that's a lot more robust, a lot more, I'm hesitant to say professional, but I would say hiring a professional to do your website versus the DIY route.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody gets wrapped around the axle when it comes to this sort of thing, because back in the day, to hard code a 30-page website, and back in the day, who had 30 pages on the website? But
I've done this.
You're talking, yes, absolutely. You're talking the table stakes as far as just getting a website launched, hard coded, not a lot of functionality. You were talking $25,000 to $30,000 easy
Mm-hmm.
for a very simple website back in the day.
You know,
Now, what you're seeing are website builders that have attempted to commoditize website
right.
design and website building. So you and I have this triangle that we talk about when it comes to digital marketing and being an agency, and go into that just real quick before we start talking about these platforms.
Okay, I mean, there's three things. It's good, fast, cheap. Pick two. Okay, you can have it good and
Absolutely.
fast. You can have it fast and cheap. You can have it fast and good, but you can't have all three, because if you're going to get good, fast, and cheap, I mean, it's going to cost you money to get things good and fast. It's going to cost you money to. It's really going to cost you money to get things really good. And but a lot of times you can do like two of those items, but you can't do all three at once. And that's the thing that you need to realize. And it's kind of true to anything in marketing and a lot of things in life in general.
Absolutely. So, just try to reel us back into this overarching thing about hidden costs. What are some of the platforms that, if somebody said, I need or a do-it-yourself website builder, if they Googled this, what are some of the major platforms out there that would be easy for anybody listening or watching this to find?
Right. And so I want to preface this by saying this is not a tutorial on how to use these platforms. You can go on YouTube and find a million tutorials on each one of these things. And we're not going to touch on every single platform. We're going to touch on the biggest ones because there are all kinds of different ones. And so today we're going to talk about Wix, Squarespace, and WordPress. Those are the three major players in this space, and they take varying degrees of skill to work with. So Wix.com, and I'll put links to all these in the descriptions. And I'm going to preface this also by saying we may get some affiliate money out of these links. And so I want to be completely transparent anytime that we're putting a link in the description and that we might make money on. That's a big might. If anybody actually happens
And a
to click
small
on the link.
that's
Uh,
yeah,
and
that's a big might and a small
and a
amount of
very,
money.
very small amount of money. It might buy me one pod on the Keurig. So
Right.
anyway, but so Wix.com is one of the most well-known DIY website builders. And I'll admit, I looked at this a few years back and was completely unimpressed and a little bit snobby about this. As a professional website developer, it kind of ticked me off a little bit that these guys were coming up here and taking my business away, and so had a little bit of, because I see these things
Right.
happening, and they were very, very, very limited in what you could do. I mean, it was basically all the sites looked the same. They weren't really good from a search engine optimization standpoint, and they were really kind of stiff. Um, and this happened, and this was with Wix and Squarespace and some of the other players as well. And so this week I actually went back and took a closer look at these platforms again, what they are in 2022 versus what they were back in 2020 or 2018. And I got to tell you, I was really surprised. I was not expecting to like these platforms. I was actually expecting to look at it and get a little pissed off about everything. So, um, and it kind of irritated me that I wasn't. So when
Yep.
when I
Yep.
went into Wix.com, for example, um, I was able to spin up a pretty decent looking website really, really quickly. Now, the thing that I wasn't able to do really, really quickly was add my add my own images, because you got to go out and take images or source images. I wasn't able to write all my own content very quickly, because you've got to tell your story. And customizing it takes some time. There's a lot of customization features in there. But some of the things that it does is it actually helps you start with a template that's close to what your industry would be. So I put in manufacturing, just to, because we have a lot of manufacturing clients. And so I put in manufacturing because that was one traditionally that, you were looking at like hair salons and restaurants and coffee shops. And you know, that was the kind of things that you would find on there. But they've got a really robust platform now. But these things do cost money. So it's not free, unless you want to have somebody else's logo on your site saying proudly made by Wix.com. If you're a business trying to get your brand out there, you're not wanting somebody else's brand on there saying, okay, this was made on Wix, because that just smacks of not being professional. It smacks of being small and not having your act together. So let's take a look then. Okay, and I'm looking here at my other screen here, but let's take a look at the plans that are available, because Wix.com has multiple levels, and you can either pay monthly or annually on those levels. And I'm heading over there to almost Squarespace. No wonder that didn't work. So, um, and when you're in there, you can say, okay, what are these plans? And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, so that you can kind of see. We're not going to do. By the way, we're not doing a tutorial on how to use these platforms, because there are about 10 million tutorials on YouTube on how to use all of these platforms. And so that's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to help you see what the costs are going to be. And so, right off the bat, when you log in for your free trial on all of these, and all of them start with a free trial, um, you're gonna see advertising that says, "Hey, you want to save 50% on this? Do it by this time." And they've got a little counter there, trying to pressure you to go ahead and get into that paid subscription on here. And so and you can see here they've got different plans. Now they have multiple tiers of their multi-tiered plans. And so you've got general websites, you've got business and e-commerce plans. They're a little bit more expensive. Those are for if you're selling products online, just like we did the Shopify tutorials here before, Wix also has some online selling options. And then you have enterprise plans. And so you see that these solutions here start at $500 a month versus your basic plans start at $22.50 a month. And that's an introductory rate. Eventually, that rate will go up to, oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. They start at $11 a month, and eventually that rate is going to double. Um, and so, once you get in and your website's all dependent on this, then your rates are going to eventually double per month. And hopefully by that time, you're making more money on your website. But, you just need to know that it's going to cost you that. And on a platform like Wix or Squarespace or GoDaddy Website Builder, I hate to even mention that one, um, but but you can't move the site from one platform to another. So once you're in that platform, if you want to move to another platform, you have to build a whole new site. So you can't just. It's not like a WordPress site where if you change themes, you can keep a lot of your stuff, or you can just upgrade or move to a new host. So it's an app, and you're within their platform. Some of the things that you might not expect to have costs on here that you need to be aware of. You still have to register your domain name someplace, and they have tools right in the platform to be able to register your domain name. Um, you still have to write all of the content for your website. You have to tell your own story. If you don't want it to look like everybody else's site, you need to use your own imagery. You need to find or create your own graphics. And if you're not good at photography, please don't use cruddy photography on your website. Don't just take pictures on your cell phone and slap them up as your hero picture on there, because it's not going to look professional. It's going to give your business a bad reputation, have a negative impact on your brand. Um, and so all of these things have to happen for you to have a more professional looking website. And there's a whole bunch of setup items in every one of these platforms. And so I'll just keep my screen share up there so we can pop it up here on the screen as necessary, Michael. Um, but what I've found as far as the platforms go, for ease of use, for somebody who's never built a website before, but you're moderately competent on your computer, Wix.com was by far the easiest one of the major platforms to use. I went in and I was able to spin something up quickly. I answered a few questions about my business, the type of business that it is, and punched in a couple of key details, and it gave me some options that I could choose from. Um, I also like the fact that they had some additional features. Now they cost extra money, but they were additional features that would make my web presence a lot better. So if I'm new to business and I don't have a logo, for example, they have options there where you can get a logo automatically produced and get files that you'll actually need. So if you were going to make a sign, or if you were going to make t-shirts or things like that, they actually have that built in. One of my big complaints about logo builder programs in the past is they give you one file and it's this big to use in the header of your website, and you can't use it anyplace else because if you stretch it up, it gets all pixelated and stuff. Well, Wix actually answered that question, and I was really surprised at how decent it turned out. Now, it's still not going to be a custom created logo. It's still not going to be a custom created website. You're still going to look a lot like a lot of other websites out there. Your logo is still going to have artwork in it that could be used in another logo someplace. So it's not exclusive to you. And that's one of the things that you've got to keep in mind. If you're going to grow your brand to a point where you're going to trademark items, you're going to really want to build your brand, then you're going to want to take that extra step and get a professional to design these things for you so that you have something that's uniquely yours. And that's the trade-off with something like this. You can get a website up really quickly, but it's not going to be uniquely yours. But early on in your business, quick is probably better than unique. So you can still do some things to customize it, but making something that's there and you can actually start selling with quickly is probably more important at that stage of your business, depending on the type of business that you are. So those are all things to keep in mind. Now, I compared Wix to Squarespace, and Squarespace has a lot of similar features from Wix, but in my opinion, it was a lot more confusing interface. If you're not really computer savvy and you're not highly observant, and by highly observant, I don't mean you just don't pay attention to things. I mean you are extremely attentive to detail, then you might be okay doing a Squarespace site. But I've, like I mentioned, I've got over 25 years experience working in various tools, and I had a hard time figuring out what the heck I was doing in there. And the sites all tend to look the same. They all kind of start with the same colors and themes and styles and general basic layout. And so you run into, okay, this looks really, really generic. And if you remember back in the 80s and 90s when they had all the generic stuff on the grocery store shelves and they were all in the black and white boxes, that's what Squarespace looked like to me. Um, and so everything was very generic. Now you can go in and customize all kinds of things in it, but you've got to customize every single little item on there one at a time. And it can take hours and hours and days and weeks and months to actually get your website up and running to the place where you feel like it actually represents your brand. And so with that, the prices were comparable to Wix.com. They weren't too far off, but Wix just offered a lot more options. They offered a lot more themes. They offered a lot more apps. Now, again, just like Shopify, they were paid apps. A lot of them had like free trial, try it out before you buy it, things like that, which I think is very helpful. But they cost a lot of money. The thing you're going to run into with this, though, on any one of these two builders is it's not going. You're going to have a hard time making it uniquely yours. So I've kind of rambled on about that. Michael, do you have anything input because you've got a lot of experience within these type of builders as well?
Yeah. So the thing about these, and I'm going to just throw a blanket over all of them. These drag and drop website builders, to where you do things in the browser, you pick an element and you drop it on the page, and it's sort of plug and play. They try to make it as easy and non-technical as possible. Is
Mm-hmm.
speed to market. You mentioned that, and I've always been a proponent of that. Is get something out there quickly, because perfect is the enemy of good enough. And if you are in a highly competitive space, getting out there in front of your ideal clients with a message and empathy and branding that resonates with your ideal client, that's way more important, at least at the beginning, than what platform you're using and functionality on your website. Now, will that change? Absolutely, depending on how quickly your business grows and how big your business gets. But if you guys are just starting out, and for all intents and purposes, your website is a digital brochure, a digital business card, a place for people who find you on social media, who click on your email signature. And folks, if you don't think that people are looking you up in your email signature, you're wrong. Uh, you know, when they click on your email signature and your nice headshot and your nice email that's well written goes to a janky website, when there's a disconnect there, then you start losing prospects and customers. So those two things need to line up. And some of these drag and drop um, website builders are good enough. And I've actually built pretty substantial websites on these drag and drop builders and charged premium pricing for it, because I didn't as a digital marketing agency, I certainly don't have the design and development chops that Drew does. I'm going to be honest with you. My agency was built on creating the sort of content that Drew talked about that you can get bogged down in. And so that was my selling point when I had my agency. Drew's shop, they build these custom websites that are beautiful with all kinds of functionality. And so that's why he attracts these larger manufacturing, these larger nonprofit companies. But, you know, um, what you're going to get when you do a Wix, a Squarespace, these drag and drop builders, you're going to get speed of implementation, and second of all, you're going to get speed of being able to iterate off that first version. That's what I love about these, is that if something changes, if the market shifts, you're not having to overhaul this big website. You're able to make changes on the fly, make landing pages on the fly without having to tap a developer or a designer. So for it's all about speed when it comes to this. But if you're wanting some functionality, you're going to start seeing that that costs, the hidden costs, are not going to be hidden anymore. They're going to be right up in your face when you're going to want functionality that is outside of the box.
Okay, and this is the site that I built on Wix.com, and it's very similar in the type of business, but you can see it's a very different website. And this is using a lot of their default imagery and things like that. But you can see it looks a lot more like a manufacturing website. Um, Now, Michael mentioned his goal with his agency was to get sites up very quickly that were good sites, but they were just very quickly made. They weren't made to be completely custom. On the other hand, these are some sites that we built here with my company. These are actual clients of mine, um, and you can see that it's very much a custom website. It's very, very highly customized. Here's another one that we did, and these websites are a lot more custom built websites. You can see the graphics are very customized. The layouts are highly customized, and so if you're wanting something more along the lines where you're looking more like a national or international brand or even a large regional brand, then you're probably going to want to go the custom route. Um, Now, one thing that we haven't talked a lot about is WordPress. Um, WordPress is another platform that's widely used, and you can actually start a WordPress site for free. You can go to WordPress.com and spin up a blog real quick for free. But you're going to quickly realize that in doing that, you're going to be very limited on what you can get for free on WordPress. Um, but what you're going to be able to get with a WordPress site is a lot more apps available for it. They call them plugins. You're going to have a lot more themes available for it because there are thousands upon thousands of theme developers for WordPress. There are thousands upon thousands of app developers for WordPress. And with a little bit of with a lot of know-how, you can make WordPress sites do whatever you want. You can build them however you want. Those two sites that I just showed you were WordPress sites. We are mostly a WordPress shop here at Escape Plan. And so we were able to build those completely customized sites on the WordPress platform. But you can also start very small with your business with a pre-made theme that closely matches what you're doing for a small amount of money. And so what you're mostly going to pay for with a WordPress site, you're going to use like WordPress hosting. And so hosting is where you put all of the files of your site. And WordPress is not just an app where you go onto their platform and build your site. It's a software program that you install on a server. And there are tons and tons and tons of hosting services that have WordPress built into it. We recommend SiteGround. They're a great host, but there are a lot of other hosting services for just Google WordPress hosting, and you can find that. And it's going to cost you anywhere from $19 to $50 a month, just depending on what you do and how robust you want. But then you can build the site however you want, or your developer can build the site however you want that site built. And you can grow from a small site that you do it yourself to expand it to a larger site and it can scale with your business. So as Michael was talking about earlier, where you are you're looking to grow your brand, you're looking to expand that, but maybe you've started small, you can actually scale it up with WordPress without having to recreate everything every single time. And that's the advantage of using a WordPress site. Now, these sites that I showed you, I mean, you're going to be paying top dollar for sites like that. You're going to be paying top dollar for custom. And if you go further customized, where you've got a company hard coding everything for you, they're completely developing everything from scratch. I mean, you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a website. Yep. But at that point, you should be a business that's large enough to support that. The businesses that we mostly work with at Escape Plan are mid-sized companies that are between 1 and 20 million in sales, and they're looking to grow up, if you will. And so they're looking for more to graduate to that next level of their business. So,
yeah. So before we move on to our action tip of the week, I did want to just bring up a couple things, regardless, agnostic of the platform. You want to talk about a hidden cost? Go use somebody else's images without their permission, and then you will get a letter in the mail. So don't just go to Google.
You mean
and
we can't
find
just go get images off of Google? What?
You go ahead and try, because the letter in the mail that you get can be a little can take your breath away.
That's right.
Based on one photo. Just be careful with that when you're using photography. You don't have the rights to these photographers. They do great work and they want to get paid for the work. So just be careful of that. And then
we will have an episode coming up on photography and videography pretty soon.
Right. And so just be careful of that. That's a hidden cost that you cannot skimp on. And then number two, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Speed to market in our environment is critical. Mm-hmm. And I have had clients that we went back and forth on approvals for website design, back and forth on what this button should look like, and this button should look like, and what this page should do, and where it should lead. And more often than not, we had a great thing going when we started, and then 6 months down the road, me and my client hated the website. They were just tired of looking at it. And so that's the one thing that I try to avoid with all my clients, my past clients, was you get it. You get something out there in front of your audience, and then you be able to iterate off of that. You could do that with any of these platforms. I just wanted to throw that out there. All right. We are, goodness gracious, we're 30 minutes into this episode.
Right.
Let's go ahead and get to our action. And if you have any questions about hidden costs regarding Wix, Squarespace, drag and drop, WordPress, just drop Drew an email. He'll answer those questions, spin up a 30-minute coffee conversation with him, and he'll be able to take a deeper dive. But the action tip for this week, Drew, is website related, but take a critical look at the website if you have one. If you don't, call Drew. But take a critical look at the website that you have. What sort of lens? I call it, remember back in the day, the little viewfinder that you drop the little thing in? What sort of viewfinder thing, lens, should people be looking at when they're taking a critical look at their website,
Well,
Drew?
always remember that this website is for your customers and your potential customers. It is not for you. As the CEO of your company, as the owner, whatever you want to call yourself, the hipsters call it the founder today. But yeah, so as the owner of your company, you need to realize that your website and your marketing is not for you. You're not targeting yourself. You're targeting your customer, and you need to look at it with the lens of what does your customer need to take the next step in that buyer journey. So is it, what do you want them to do? Do you want them to fill out a contact form to set an appointment? Do you want them to actually make the final purchase online? Make sure that your website allows people to easily have the information they need to take that next step. If it doesn't, then you've got a disconnect that happens. And also, take a look at it critically. Don't let your pride get in the way, and really look and say, do those pictures really represent the kind of image that I want my company to have? Does this website, when I look at it on my phone, when I look at it on my tablet or on my desktop, does it really convey what I want people to think about my business? And when you do that, because it's easy to look at it and say, oh, wow, I've got my website and I can just ignore it and set it and forget it. That is death in the digital marketing world. If you haven't updated your website in a long time, it's a living, breathing thing. It's something that you need to update on a regular basis. It needs to look current. It needs to look like stuff that your customers are going to need to make a decision.
Yeah. So, one of my favorite comedians, number one, because he's funny, and number two, he's super, super clean and family friendly. It's hard to find those these days. His name is Brian Regan, and he has this bit. Please go look it up. It's called the Me Monster, and it's hilarious. But the last thing you want to do, and when you're taking a critical look at your website, is does your website talk more, does it make you look like a me monster? Does it just talk about you and me and me? Take a look at us. This is what we do. This is why we're great. This is why, you should work with us. That in today's environment is a complete turnoff. When somebody visits your website, they should immediately connect with you because you understand them. It's one of these things. Both of us have teenagers, and the thing about teenagers is they are convinced that the world revolves around them, and businesses, more often than not, when you go to their website, a bad website, even if it looks great, makes the person visiting it, makes them read about the company, and it doesn't resonate with them because
Right.
they're like, they don't understand me, they just want me to talk about them. And so
It's
that
me. I
that's
am so great. Look at me. Look how
right.
awesome I am. You got to think about, what does your customer care about? They don't
Yeah.
care. They don't care that you made a merger in 1983. They don't.
Right.
They don't
Yep.
care that your widget is made of titanium alloy. They care that it won't break.
Right.
You got to think
Remember,
about it from,
folks,
what
you
does the
don't we
customer care about?
absolutely remember, folks, you don't go to Home Depot or Lowe's, uh, and buy a drill for the drill. You buy the drill for the hole it creates.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to make sure that when you're looking at your website, that messaging, you're telling your visitor you understand them, that you empathize with them, and that you can solve the problem that they have. And with that, I'm going to get off my soapbox. Let's wrap this thing up.
All right.
Drew, what can we look forward to for the next episode? And then just go ahead and take us on out.
All right. So in the next episode, we're going to be talking about social media. Is social media really free? Spoiler alert, it is not. Um, And oh man, I just blew the whole episode right there. No, we're going to talk about why it's not free and how much it really costs. And of course, we want to thank our sponsors, Escape Plan Marketing, for this. If you want to take your business to the next level, go to escapeplanmarketing.com and fill out the contact form to set up a 30-minute discovery call. And if you do that, you're going to get our marketing audit checklist absolutely free, and that's going to walk you through all of the information that you should know as the business owner about your marketing. So often business owners don't know where all their marketing is, how to log into anything, and how to access the files that they need to do their marketing. And so our marketing audit checklist helps you with all of those things. It helps you put all of those things in one organized place that's safe for you, so that you always know this no matter what you're doing marketing wise. And if you set up a 30-minute discovery call at escapeplanmarketing.com, then you're going to get that absolutely free. And as always, if you're new to Marketing Rocket Fuel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you like. Let us know what's a waste of time, and yell at us if you want. We kind of like that. So,
Absolutely. Drew, it's always good spending time with you, brother.
all right. Have a great week, everybody.
See ya.